Welcome back to the Jameson Files. I'm your host, Carrie Weber. We're so glad to have you back for another episode. We are recording this episode live at ADA's SmileCon 2022 meeting in Houston, Texas. And we're so proud and pleased to be a part of SmileCon's podcast row area of podcasters and influencers this year. And with me today is a very special guest, a dear friend, Samir Bhasin of Care Credit. Samir, thank you so much for being with us today. Yeah. Samir is the Vice President of Alliances for Care Credit, what we believe to be the premier patient financing program in the dental profession and in other professions outside of dentistry, obviously. You've been in the arena for many years, and for us at Jameson, patient financing has always played such a key role in treatment acceptance, in our relationships with our patients, and in helping patients find the ways forward to receive the treatment they want or need. And so today I want to talk about patient financing and the need for patient financing from the perspective of your patients. So we often think about, how does this serve me as the doctor, as the practice? How is this going to serve us? But I would like for all of us in the dental realm, all of these dental practices, all of you that are listening or watching this podcast, I want us to start thinking about what could and what does the opportunity of patient financing, what role could that play in helping more and more patients receive the type of treatment they're looking for? So Samir, to begin, let's take a step back for a moment, and could you share with us a little bit of a story, the life story of Care Credit, perhaps the abridged version.
Not the 35-year-old version?
Not the 35-year-old version.
Okay.
And also where you stand today in terms of how you're serving practices, but also how you're serving your customers and the patients that use you.
No, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. This is so phenomenal. It's nerve-wracking at the same time, but this is a topic that I feel very passionate about. And I think you started out by saying, from a patient's perspective, right? Everything, I love the profession just like you do. I love the people we get to serve. And ultimately, you get to do what you get to do. Our doctors get to do what they get to do. We get to do what we get to do is because of that patient.
Yes.
Keeping that patient as a center point has always been, and now Care Credit's been in the profession, serving profession now this year will be 35 years.
Amazing.
And this goes back to when 35 years ago, it started in dentistry. It started with doctors wanting to know how they can do more implants because financing wasn't not an option at that time. And hence the birth of Care Credit. Of course, it was called DentCharge way back when. But fast forward, to your question, how has it changed? What is it that the center point, everything that we do, literally and always first comes what is best for the patient. And of course, definitely what's best for our doctors and their teams. It's easy for us to, we get busy and we get in the habit of trying to, we lose sometimes that focus. But for Care Credit, it's always been where can we do, how can we make it easy? Talking about money is not everybody's cup of tea. It's not everybody's comfort zone. And we understand that. So having the tools and resources, it's a constant evolution. It's constantly keeping our customers, our providers, our doctors in dentistry and outside of dentistry where we get to serve more. We keep asking ourselves, are we doing what you are looking for? Is the office looking for? What the patients are looking for? And that's in essence, patient being the center form and doctors right along with it has always been our focus. So that part has not changed at all over the years. And it's only gotten, complicated in some times, and the treatments have changed and the patient education has changed and our approach may have changed as in the profession, but the core always goes back to why do we do it? We do it to serve our patients, to get them to dentistry they want, and they don't put that as a option of thinking, can I postpone it?
Right.
And put their health as a secondary.
Right. So thinking of it from the patient perspective, I know that Care Credit and Synchrony do a great deal of continuous study. You really try to keep your finger on the pulse of consumer behavior and what patients are looking for. What are their obstacles to care? What are, what seems to be the need? So for you, what is the demand and the need for patient financing from the consumer standpoint that you all are experiencing at this point today for dentistry?
So the demand, people may think like, okay, does the demand have anything to do with the economy? Yes and no, but the demand has not been any different. It's actually gotten more. More patients are more aware of the oral health, how it impacts their overall health. So they are more educated and looking and asking for those options. So that's gone up. It's always been part of, when the economies are not doing well, patients don't want to use their cash. They don't want to use their credit cards. They are looking for, they do believe in the treatment that's been offered. I do believe that. So, I think the biggest obstacle that, in my opinion, personally, the assumption is money is always the biggest. Money, time, and fear is always, we've been taught. Like, it's money, time, and fear. That's why patients don't accept it.
Yes.
And I don't disagree with that, but I would actually even put the value of dentistry is, are we doing enough? Are we educating enough for the patient to believe why this is important for them before we even talk about money and time and fear? So if you put all hand in hand, that the demand has increased.
Yes.
Where it does differ is if we are only focusing on, will the patient get approved for it? Will the patient want it? That means we have missed a mark somewhere. If the patient feels like they need to go have a conversation at home and discuss with somebody else, or they're not ready, or they want to think about it. So let's think about what did they want to think about. In their minds, are unfortunately in our profession, the emergency or the value of dentistry has always been touted as if it's not broken, bleeding, or hurting, it's not urgent.
Right.
And so that's where I feel, so we look at where the profession is, where the markets are, where the consumers are, and it's been constantly, the increase as the request, and they are looking for it. And it's not any different now. Remember, one of the things I always say is people don't buy cars, they buy car payments. They don't buy house, they buy mortgage payments, right? So they are all aware of, and in some cases, the investment could be just as big of a car.
Yes.
So it's not that they are thinking it's new.
Yes.
It's just when it comes to that kind of a dollar amount, they usually have an option presented to them immediately.
Yes, and that's a great point, because, and to that point, would you agree that there's a likelihood that patients are coming in expecting there to be a monthly payment option presented to them, because just to your point, we have come to expect that in any major investment that we make. So while we as dental practices may be avoiding it or saving it in the back pocket for like the last resort, it really, that puts an emphasis on bringing that to the forefront with every other option that you have available, because it's not, it could be a patient of all levels of financial capabilities that may be interested in taking care of their dentistry in that way. So again, when I interviewed Dr. Mark Hyman on the podcast, we've talked about how when we assume for our patients, we're doing such a disservice for them. And I agree with you also on the value piece. ADA surveys often show in all the different reasons, in addition to cost, time, and fear, that need shows up. And I always think it means perceived need. If they're not coming to the dentist because of a lack of need, then that is a blaring sign that there is no value in the care.
Yeah.
There is no value in the treatment. So at Jameson, we always teach the 4 pillars of a patient-practice partnership, and it's trust, need, urgency, and value. So the value has to be in place before the financial conversations take place.
Absolutely.
So you're saying that you see the need, patients are seeking it out, whether the practices are talking about it as an option to them could be left to be determined, because they're likely... Are they looking for it themselves? Are they finding care credit without the dental practice's help?
So there's a little bit of both, because it's just kind of going back to think about it. When a patient comes to the practice, you were asking about need earlier, right?
Yes.
And I keep hearing a lot of conversation about, I want to get out of any kind of out of network.
Yes.
Well, you want to get out of network, you're almost now asking for more payment to be at. So when a patient is coming into your practice and you go over the treatment that they need, because that's what we are telling them, this is what you need, then we tell them their benefits don't really cover anything. We tell them that it's kind of urgent. Mm-hmm. We tell them that we're expecting them to pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 upfront. Mm-hmm. And I, as a patient, am thinking, it's not hurting, it's not bleeding, and it's not broken.
Right.
And with holidays coming, do I really want to? If it's not the holidays, it's probably spring break. If it's not the spring break, it's the summer break. If it's not summer break, it's back to school, and then we're back to holiday. So there will always be a reason. And to your point, where we see, in my experience, how care credit card, or any kind of patient financing is offered as a product versus part of their process. It's always an afterthought. It's always when the patient says, let me think about it. I'll call you back.
And say, and there's one more thing. Here, take this brochure.
But wait, there is more.
Here, just take this brochure while you go home to think about it and not call me back.
Yep. So that's exactly it. So when you make it as part of the product, to a patient, it's like, okay, it's obviously was not that important, because otherwise you would have presented to me up front.
Yes.
Right? I mean, every treatment that you talked about, even some of the things that you mentioned that we can wait for 3, 4, 5 months, you discussed it up front.
Yes.
This you need. Money was, obviously it's not as important. Otherwise, you would have gone over every option that I have. Yes, and here's the part, and I think that's one of the myths, and we can talk about it later on as well, is that we want everybody to apply for patient financing. Mm-hmm. We want the patients to finally say yes, whether it's by check or credit card or cash or patient financing. Mm-hmm. Is the challenge that we see, or I have seen over the years, it's we will talk about it until you actually bring it up. And let's think about it, like how many times patient will actually come out and say, oh, do you have any patient finance? It becomes uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable for you as the team member to have a conversation about money, it's uncomfortable for the patient to also ask for that.
Yes.
So if you are keeping it as a dirty secret, then that's where it stays.
That's where it stays.
And if you look at your diagnosed and unscheduled report, it will give you a blaring report of where and how we can fix that. Yeah. How we can address that.
So let's go there. Let's talk about let's debunk the myths.
Yeah.
Mythbusters, Care Credit Edition, Patient Financing Edition. So number one is, a good patient financing company is not wanting you to use patient financing on every single patient. They want you to use it as the tool to help the patients that are looking for patient financing as their solution.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
So what else? What are some of those myths that you hear that are always the but
gosh, how long do we have? No, so one of them is, our patients, they pay cash. Mm-hmm. They all pay cash.
Great.
Which is fantastic.
Great.
Can we take a look at your diagnosed and unscheduled report again? Right? Or patient financing is only for large cases, or people who have money, or people who don't have money. I mean, it's like the extreme ends. No. Patient financing is an option, just like anything else. Think about in your personal life, have you ever financed? It has nothing to do with whether you can afford it or not, as far as the product or service that you're about to buy. It is about the option.
Yes.
Giving the option. So it's not that it's only for certain demographics. Mm-hmm. If it's part of your process, you will be amazed to see, because I had one doctor tell me, he was like, oh, I can see it because rich people stay rich because they use somebody else's money. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
there's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But the other part is, that's what I keep going back to. It has nothing to do with, is the product only for a certain demographic? It's for everyone. That's why I said product, process.
Yes.
Have that conversation. If I was to ask you, are implants for only certain demographics, you're going to say, no.
Right.
It's the standard of care. It's a great option, and I would offer it to you. Doesn't matter what your credit score is.
Yes.
And it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's the same service. So think of it from that aspect. So that's another one where patients pay cash and everybody pays cash. One of them we hear is, oh, you don't approve anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That one.
Yeah.
I've heard that one.
I actually even had that somebody told me that you approve more people towards the end of the month. It's like, okay, now that's a new one for me.
That's new.
Because
Okay.
we are definitely not selling
Yeah.
cars, so it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the time of the month of when we sell, when we approve more patients.
Yeah.
So here's what my belief is. Perception is reality. If my perception is that I was really trying to help patient Carrie get approved, and she did not get approved for patient financing, nobody gets approved for
Nobody.
patient financing.
That's right. That one person
Because the one
equals
person that I
nobody.
wanted to help does not.
Yes.
So that perception sticks. So then
Yes.
it's the same thing, kind of goes back to everybody pays cash. No, somebody paid cash for their, it was $200 out of pocket or $100 out of pocket.
Yes.
Everybody pays cash. So that's not necessarily the case. The best way, thankfully we are in a profession where we measure and see, and there's hypotheses, then there's theories, and then we actually need data. We need data to see what is successful and what's not. And I highly recommend everyone, whether you are utilizing Care Credit patient financing or somebody else, go back and take a look at how many applications were submitted.
Yes.
That is a good barometer. And
Can I step in
Yeah.
on that, because just like with anything that a practice brings in, a resource, a tool, a software, a new piece of technology, the learning curve is the determining factor of how much the team that practice is going to maximize that tool.
Yeah.
And to kind of point towards the mindset and the conversation of, well, I tried it once, they got denied, I'm never trying this again, it doesn't work, they're too they're too stringent or whatever.
Yeah.
If and just you said, like, have you run any reports? Do you know, like, are you utilizing? Are you just assuming? A coach that I worked with once used to tell me, you need to inspect what you expect.
Yes.
And I feel like this is, financing in your practice is a system. It's a system in your practice, and when left unchecked and just left to be whatever it is, you can't see improvement. I mean, it's just such a key piece to the patient's relationship with you, to their ability to say yes or complete treatment. And I know that Care Credit has resources.
Yes, we do.
And I mean, incredible resources to not only help team members get more comfortable with how to talk about patient financing, how to overcome concerns or objections about patient financing, the verbal skills and all of that, but also how they can do their own due diligence and inspect what they expect, what the opportunities are in their practice, how much effort they've done, even tools to utilize in the patient conversation. So can we just talk about that for a minute? I mean, do you think practices know these things are there?
No. In fact,
Do you
I
think
just
they use them?
came from our booth and I had the same conversation, and the office was like, I did not know you guys had that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like anything else. It's part of that communication.
Yes.
The assumption is I bring a product or a service in, then everything is fine.
Yes.
I'm gonna bring that CEREC machine or then everybody's going to do same-day crown. No, it doesn't happen. Somebody still has to have a conversation around it. So to your point, we do have a lot of resources, and depends on where you are in your practice. Are you needing help with conversation? Then there's tools like payment options forms.
Yes.
It literally walks every patient, and it's simple. It's very nicely done. It's very professional.
Yes.
It does not have treatment. It has the numbers that patients want to know.
Yes.
How much it's going to cost, Is there any kind of a courtesy adjustment on cash?
Yes.
And are there payment? I mean, again, just have it up front to have that conversation to where you're not going back and forth of what can you afford, how much can you afford. So there is that. So just to have, if you're looking for how can I make it a conversation easier for my team, there's payment options for them. We have tools and resources to where you may be focusing on aligners or implant cases or cosmetic cases. There are tools where you can know beforehand, will the patient get approved by Care Credit
Yes.
on their patient financing or not, without running their credit check. It's called Quick Screen, or it's called Batch Quick Screen.
Yes.
So to help you prepare for your day, prepare to have that conversation, prepare to create that sense of urgency and that value.
Yes.
Right. So there is that. Then there is reports that are available. Same thing. We have come up with QR code. We've been doing QR code for years now.
Yes.
But taking some of the burden off of the teams and the team members have to take the time to do the application, have a QR code where the patient scans, they can check whether they will pre-qualify, they will qualify or not without running their credit, and then do the application right there, and you can do the transaction the same day.
Yes.
You don't even have to wait for 3 days anymore.
Yes.
Right? So there is that. Last but not, you talked about the verbal skills and resources. One of the things that I'm very proud of, and this is where I've cherished our relationship, we work with experts in the profession, like yourself. You have been gracious in providing the knowledge and the resources to help the teams. It has nothing to do with Care Credit. It has to do with running your practice better, improving your skills, improving that patient experience, improving how the teams handle it. It's all complementary to them. It's available to them. Last but not the least, it would be remiss if I didn't mention that the biggest resource they have at their fingertips is our rep. Is a rep that is assigned to them, whose job and only job is to find out a way to help you have that conversation, make patient financing, any objections that you're hearing, any concerns that you may have, best practices that are happening, to share that. It's not about, okay, are you doing more Care Credit or not? It has to do with, are we helping more patients? The reason you brought us into your practice.
Yes.
Are we doing that?
My argument for that, for you and for your reps, is if your Care Credit rep is calling your practice and you're shutting them down as a gatekeeper, they're not selling you something.
No.
You already have Care Credit. The goal of your Care Credit representatives is to help you maximize this tool and make the most of this resource that you have. So please take the call.
Yes.
Have the meeting.
Have the meeting.
Have a conversation, because these are people that are trained to know the answers to the questions you may have, to help you overcome the obstacles you may be facing. And they're not afraid of your questions.
No.
And they want to know what your objections are, what your concerns might be, so that you can use the tool more effectively and successfully in your practice.
And the more we hear back from you, when I talked about evolution in the very beginning, that is what has gotten us to the point where we are at, because the voice of the customer, voice of our doctors is very important, and the team members is very important. The more we hear, the only way we're going to hear is through our reps. Like, this is what I'm hearing in the field when I go and speak with our teams and the doctors. So yes, I would actually even challenge you to, and I get it. Doctors feel that I am best suited to be in the operatory. That's where I belong. And yes, you do. Definitely you do. But as a business owner, as a CEO of your practice, you still need to know what's going on in your practice. So twice a year, if you say, hey, Samir, I'm going to give you 30 minutes. Can you give me my practice analysis? Give me a temperature check, where we are at. What are we doing well? What can we change? And here are my objections.
Yes.
You don't, the rest of the time, your team, you've hired great team members, hopefully, that you trust, but have a champion, have somebody accountable, but ultimately it will start from the leadership. It would have to start from you as the practice owner.
Where can your practices go to easily find the majority of these resources? Where can we direct them to?
So the easiest place would be, of course, for them to contact their rep. That would be the best place to start, because I want to make sure that the tool or the resources fit the need you have.
Yes.
Because to your point, like we have tools around marketing, cancellations, no-shows, patient conversation, applications. So let's not load you up with everything. Let's figure out what is it that you actually need right now and then build upon it. So the reps would be the best way. And the best way to contact them, if you don't know who they are, is you can go to carecredit.com/partner portal /contact us. Just brief information, send it to us, and we will have your rep contact you.
So carecredit.com/partner portal /contact us.
Yep.
And so, some of the takeaways are, don't let the myths, don't let the mindset deter you from maximizing this resource for your patients. The patients are speaking for themselves.
Yeah.
They're seeking out the solution for themselves. So make this an open and available solution. You already have it in your practice. I know you do. And so, for me, if you happen to not have patient financing in your practice, some things to think about are make sure that the companies you are researching, that they have longevity, that they have been around more than 6 months, and that you can count on them to be there to support your patients.
Yes.
That they are following rules and regulations, that they are following their own standard of care from the financing side of things.
Yeah.
And that you have access and resources and people that can help support you and maximize the tool in your practice. Anything else you would add to that list of what to be looking for?
I would personally ask a question to myself, because it is somebody that I'm bringing to add on to my practice. That is an extension of my brand. Are you comfortable with that extension? Are you comfortable saying, okay, when I bring in this company, I have no issues, that my patients will be taken care of, my teams will be taken care of. But absolutely, it's having it and using it are two very different things.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of the people and the offices and the audience are listening like, oh, we already have Care Credit though.
Yes.
I think we're good.
You already have it. I don't need to hear this.
Yeah. It's like me saying I have gym membership.
Having it and using it are two very different things. And I want to leave this with the question to all of you listeners is, if you have even the smallest percentage, 5% of your patients that have not proceeded with treatment, and if you knew for sure that this kind of tool, patient financing, is the key they're looking for, then what's stopping you from seeking out the resources that these patient financing companies like Care Credit have to help your patients get the treatment they want or need? Great customer service answers the question, how easy do you make it for your patients to get what they want or need? And I believe Care Credit goes above and beyond to help their clients, their customers, their partners, their practices. They try to make it as easy as possible for you to use their resources. So reach out and see, what are you doing well and what can we be doing better to maximize this tool you more than likely already have in your practice. So Samir, thank you so much for being with me today. And make sure you go to carecredit.com, go to the partner portal if you are already engaged with Care Credit. And if you're not, it's time to do some homework, and that might be your assignment. So thank you to all of you that are listening. Thanks again to Samir.
Pleasure.
Be well, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Jameson Files. Visit us online at jmsn.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or Spotify. See you next time.